When I think about Brother John, there's a few words that come to my mind. I know all of us tonight would probably say, well, soldier and patriot. Well, that's true. But you know, I've thought about words like faithful, joyful. I've never met somebody who just always seems to laugh, smile, and he's full of the joy of the Lord. He's kind. He's a preacher. He's a friend. But most importantly, he's a child of God. Amen. And this evening, Brother John's going to come and share with us. That's right. Hallelujah. We have a Brother John fan in the 5th row. Amen. That's all right. Brother John's going to share with us tonight a little bit about his life. Brother John, whatever you want to share and however long you want to share, you do so. We're just thankful that you're here with us tonight. We love you. And we're just honored that you're with us. So you come and share with us tonight.
You're right.
Good evening, friends.
Good evening.
Where could you go to find as many friends as we have right here tonight? Not only do I call you my friends, but God called you his friend. Amen. And I just pray that I've done something through life since I've been a member of this church and been here with you for quite some time, that I've done something that you can call me your friend. Amen. Somebody asked me today, Brother Morrow, when were you born? I said, I don't really know, but they set 3 things before me. One of them's a 1 and 2 zeros. And over here is a 2, and that word, it says D-A-Y-S. I think that spells something. And on this other side, there's a 2, 4, and 2, 2. Now I said, if you look at it just real close, I said, that those zeros, units, tens, hundreds. 2 days, that means 102 days. But when did it start? Over here it says 2, 4, 2, 2. That's when it started. 100 years, 102 days ago. Yeah. You see? Brother Eric asked me about this. I said, Brother Eric, I haven't been able to read my Bible to amount to anything for over a year. I said, how do you expect me to come up with a devotion? Oh, he said, you've got it all up here. I might have some of those I can quote all right, but putting it in a devotion is 2 different things. Then somebody asked me, would you please start at your birthday and give us a little bit about your life history? Are you ready to stay here 4 hours? I'll try to cut it down to 2. But I'll start at my birthday. Now, I was born and raised in a big city. You might have thought I was a plowboy, but no. I was born and raised in a big city. I want you to get that big part of it. That's just part of the name of the city. The other part is flat. Big flat. That's some name, isn't it? Now, I'll try to remember just a little bit about that city for you to start with. There was a school there, grades 1 through 12. They didn't have a gym. They played on an outside court, and there's a lot of gravel in that court, but dirt there. They fall and break and skin knees. They'd have to take time out to wrap those knees up, get the blood out of the way. Then we had 2 grocery stores there, one on the south side and the other just a little bit past the center. We had one church, oh boy, and one gas station, one fire department with one truck. We had one barber shop. We had one great big storm cellar. You put a lot of people in there and you stack them like sardines. And one time they had to do that. The storm came through and they stacked no telling how many people in that storm cellar. My dad never would run from the storm, but this time it got so serious he thought, well, maybe I better go to the storm cellar. Got down there with no room for it. He couldn't even close the door. So they stacked that whole thing full of people. Now, they had another big building there that had clothing and hardware stuff and all that in that. I don't remember what they call it, but they had a big slab poured, asphalt, 20 foot wide and 30 foot long. They put benches down the side each one of that, on each side of that asphalt, put a shed over it. They put a wall, just a shed. People could come in and stay out of the sun or out of the rain or what, but they had 3 great bands. And all they played was string instruments, no guitar, no piano, organ or nothing, just strictly string instruments. And on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, one of those bands would step up on the stage. By the way, that stage was 1 foot high at the other end of that slab. Start playing. Some of the people get off those benches down there and start dancing, and then they start coming in off the street dancing. That went on no telling how long. It was still going, I guess, for years after I left there. But anyway, my granddad on my father's side was a Baptist preacher. Lived just a little ways from him. He come get me and take me to church with him. And of course, he had a walking stick and had a stick on the end of it, you know. He'd always sit on the front pew. He'd set me there by him. While he was talking to somebody else, I started scooting down toward the other end of that pew. But he'd catch me after a while and put that hook, that walking stick around my neck, pull me back up to it. I do that 2 or 3 times. When he got ready to get up to the preacher, he said, now you sit right here. Well, I knew to sit right there, because I knew what was going to come if I didn't. So I sat there and listened to him. So we went that way. Now, by that time I was 3 years old. My mother got a letter from her sister lived in Bangor, Oklahoma, and told her in that letter that there's a gentleman there that had a great big cotton farm. And he was looking for somebody to come out there and regulate the picking of that cotton and stay on the next year and start a sharecropper business. So Dad and Mom, I guess, talked it over. And by the time I got ready to go, I was 4 years old. But Dad found some deal to put on there, big tarp to cover it over. It looks like a wagon train. I'm sure some of you people watch wagon train on TV. That's what it looked like. Dad put the feet on there for the horses to take us out there. Me being 4 years old, I used to go and see my dad's sisters over the other where we lived there, 2 hours or something like that. We started that trip. About 2 hours later, I said, I'll be about there, Mother. Over and over. I said, I waited a little while. I said, how far are we now, Mama? I don't know. It's a long ways. A little while longer, I asked her again. She said, son, I wouldn't have any idea. It was probably a long time. I said, well, maybe we was getting started. So we really had, every day I'd have something to say to her about how far it was. You know. Finally, we made it out there. We had a nice home to live in. There's a lot there fenced in for the horses. Barn with 2 stalls in it. Had feed places. Divided that one horse couldn't get to the other. So. And they had a big watering trough right there just a little ways. And there was a spout came up out of the ground, and all you had to do was turn the faucet on, and water would start pouring into this. I said, Dad, what is that? Where's that water coming from? He said, I don't know. I said, well, we might ought to find out. Somebody maybe losing their water. I didn't know anything about that, and so I don't know if Dad did or not, but anyway, we talked about it like that. Anyway, it was time for Dad to go to town and buy a Model T Ford, no top one, it's a four-door, plain car. But he was gonna go back home to Arkansas and visit his dad and mother, who he hadn't seen for a long time. So he was gonna go, and I was gonna go with him. I wanted to go with him, you see. Well, they let me go with him, and we got back home and from Arkansas. I was turned 5, and I got sick. So flu. Doctor came to the house call at that time. Every 2 days he'd come check on me. So he finally told my mother, said, well, said it's going into pneumonia, said it's got it in both lungs. So I sat there sick as I could be, and finally we got to where I could go to school. My aunt was a teacher, and I entered school, and my aunt brought a big basket of cookies every morning. Everybody in the school got a cookie before school started. So we got our classes over with and got home. And 2 little blonde-headed girls, the prettiest thing I ever saw. They'd walk in the rut, and on either side of the road was grass with cockleburs or sandbirds in it, and the center was the same way. Well, I was going to walk between those little girls, between those 2 little girls, even though all those sandbirds through there. We all was barefooted too, it is. So I didn't say anything to Dad that night about me having a girlfriend. But the next night I walked between those 2 little girls, and when we got home, we had eating supper. I said, Dad, I had me a girlfriend today. You did? What did you say to her? I said, nothing. So the next night I didn't say anything. But the minute I walked in the house and got ready to go to supper, my sister, just older than me, said, Frank had a girlfriend today, the one older than her, said, what did he say? My older sister said, nothing. So they just, they carried that on for a week and a half or 2 weeks, turned me against girls. I never had a date all the way through high school. There was no girls in service when I was in that. If you was in a half track, you all men. If you was in a tank, it was all men. Once in a while we'd get a break, and the USO girls would bring up the truck with coffee and donuts, and we'd all get out and go get some coffee and donuts. I would go down there and I say, Mom, I'd like 2 donuts and a cup of coffee, please. She'd hand them to me. I said, thank you. And then I got out of there and get back over here among the men. So I didn't want anything to do with girls. So I went through the war, and I had 2 good friends. We were buddies while we were training. We turned into be real good friends of each other. And the first battle that I was in, that good friend, he had a little New Testament in his pocket, and every time he got a chance, he'd take it out and read it. He was the first man that got hit. The sergeant was leading the column, supposed to turn left up there at the crossroads, but he didn't. He went on 2 miles farther and went down the hill. The Germans had that anti-tank gun set up over yonder. They didn't shoot the first 3 vehicles because they'd already down the hill. They could get down in time. We got the 4th one, and that man was standing up as another driver. That bullet hit him right in the stomach. He was standing against the back door, and when it got to that back door, it exploded.
Oh my!
Nothing left of that man. So that just broke my heart. A good friend. But just 2 or 3 minutes later, I got a flash burn in my eyes. 5 of us did. 4 other guys besides myself. They were closer to the flash burn, but I was in the hospital 6 weeks. The doctor dropped something in my eyes 3 times a day. It was like looking through muddy water. But after 6 weeks, my eyes cleared up, and I asked the doctor if I could go back to my company. He said, I'll let you go. It says you better be careful about getting something in your eye, because your eyes are extremely sensitive. And if you get something in there, don't try to rub it, don't try to do anything to it. Just keep your eyes closed or straight. Come back to the hospital and let the doctor take it out. Said it tears your eye all to pieces if you start rubbing it.
Wow.
So I went on. Had 2 or 3 more battles. We came to a river with no bridge. We had to make a bridge across, fix it where the engineers could come in. Had to make a bridgehead, and so the engineers come in and build a bridge. But I had to stay with the vehicle, so I backed it off over here in a big field. And while they were doing that, and that other good friend that I had was in that group going up that hill there, and the Germans up down there on the hill shooting down, and our guy shooting up toward them. That guy got shot in the forehead.
Oh,
He lived long enough to tell the buddy right beside him, said, "Don't tell my wife how it happened." And so that guy, after it was over with, came to me and told me what he said. So there was both of my good buddies. Then after that, I started watching myself. We'd go into a battle. I'd say, "Lord, if you'll let me get out of this battle, and I'll get back home, I'll do anything you want me to." Well, I went through that, and finally they came and said, we had 5 guys in my company there that went to Fort North, Kentucky to take tank driver training to start with. So they came and said, "We've had a lot of tank drivers killed or badly wounded. We need some tank drivers. Would you guys transfer into the tanks?" So 4 of us transferred in. There I was in a tank. I was scared to death to start with. Every time we'd go into battle, that was my prayer: "Lord, you'll help me get through this battle, get home back, and I'll get back home. I'll do anything you want me to." So we finally got to the Rhine River. Bridges are all knocked out. I was sitting there. We took that town right there on the Rhine River. You sat there and look up on that mountain, and there was Hitler's big castle sitting up there. They said, "No, you don't shoot at that castle. You don't touch that castle." So, but after a while, engineers came in and had steel cables and big balloons. They put those steel, they must have had 40 or 50 of those big steel cables and put them up about 200 feet up with those big balloons to keep the planes from coming in and destroying that bridge that they were building. And finally, the colonel came to me and said, "John, put your tank right up on about 100 feet or 150 feet below down the stream from where they're building that bridge. Put it right down on the bank. I'll come up right after a while and put a spotlight on it. You're to watch for submarines going up that river, and then you're to take your gun, your tank gun, and shoot it out of there." My cousin was sitting right up there about 150 feet behind me up on a hill. They were anti-aircraft men watching for planes to come in. So they got that bridge built, and they said, "John, you're the first tank on there." So we got, of course, I'm the driver, and I've got a assistant driver and a tank commander, and then we got the 2 guys back in the back of the tank operating the gun and the ammunition. I started out on that tank, and it started going down on that bridge. Started going down. I said, "Oh goodness, Lord, if this thing sinks, my driver and the assistant driver and the tank commander can get it, but those 2 boys back there, there's no way they can get out, Lord. They're gonna drown." And I'm just scared to death. I just eased on there. That thing just kept going down and down. Finally it stopped, but when it stopped, the front end right in front of me was just like this. I thought, how in the world are we gonna get up that? So I just kept easing along, and as I eased along, that bridge kept going down. And finally went all down on the ground, and I drove off on it. And we got off, and I went up on the Autobahn, and it should be going east or ever what direction, but we were going in the wrong direction anyway, but the bridges were all knocked out. So we had to drive out here about a mile and go down on the road that you should be coming up on to get on the Autobahn. Go down there and turn and go back under those 4 bridges. But just as I turned to go back under those 4 bridges, I had a tank gun sitting up there. They fired and hit the bridge right in the front of my tank. I reached and got that gear shift, and I put the gas to that thing and pulled it across yonder and went down over the road ditch, or the side of the road there, and I stopped after I got around behind the bank where they couldn't see me. I stopped Tank commander says, "You like to broke my back?" I said, "Which would you rather have, a broken back or be dead?" Like one time we was on maneuvers in Louisiana, wasn't supposed to have any lights on, and so it was a dusty night. We had park lights on, that's all we had. So I missed a corner, went off over the edge of the road, and the stump's down in that place. I'd probably hit one up, I'd probably turned that thing over and killed all of us, but it didn't touch one of those stumps. Got back out on the road. I kind of laughed about it. I asked if everybody's okay, and they did, and I kind of laughed about it. And the guy, tank commander, or the track commander, says, "When we get where we're going, I'm going to whip you." I jumped out, I turned the headlights on, jumped out. I said, "Right here's the best place you get." Come on off of that. Get in here, turn those lights off." When we got to where we were going, he didn't say a word to me about it. But anyway, we finally got to the end of the war. And Germans had surrendered, but now we're going to have to go back to Belgium Harbor, put all of our equipment on some of those ships and go to the South Pacific to help fight the Japanese. So when we got all of our equipment up there, stacked in that field, side by side, the word came that the Japanese had surrendered. You ought to have been there and saw that. Some of those men threw their helmets at least 200 feet up in the air. You never heard such a noise, and those helmets started coming down. It was something. So then we were ready to get on the ship and come home. Well, we hit a bad storm when we got on the ship, and the people that ran the ship fed the fish just the same as we did. Well, we didn't have anything left in our stomach when that storm was over. So, but that was the only storm we hit. We got back to New York Harbor, got out, must have sent us to Columbia, Missouri to check out. Got my check out, and I got home at 3:30 in the afternoon. Dad and Mother and I were sitting in the living room, just sitting there talking. I had never changed the uniform. I was still in uniform. My sister and two brothers came in from school at about 4:30, and she hadn't more got there. Said, "Frank, I want you to go to pie supper with me tonight." I said, "I wouldn't walk 6 miles to get to go to a pie supper at any time." "Oh no, we don't walk. We'll ride the bus." I said, "What do you mean to ride the bus?" "Yeah, the bus is running." So I said, "But why is the bus running?" Got the seniors collecting money for their class trip, but they run the bus so they could have a pie supper. So I said, "Okay, we can ride the bus." Now remember, I'm not had anything to do with girls since the girls made fun about me having a girlfriend that didn't have one. Well, I went out there with them. They had all kinds of pies. They ever so long selling those pies, and finally they're going to run some girls for prettiest girl. So I watched those girls come. There's 3 little girls came down through there. One of them had a bow in her hair. I said to my sister, I said, "Who's the little girl with the bow in her hair?" "Oh, that's Joan." I said, "That's Georgia Gamble." Said she won't even talk to the boys. "Oh, that's the one I want. I want her to say anything to me. So I'm going to run that one." So I did. I started out running her for the prettiest girl, and the guys back behind me, they teamed up on me. They pooled their money, and I was there by myself. And I was just about run out of money, and here come a buddy of mine that I'd known for years. He's still in his uniform. He said, "John, what's going on?" I said, "Well, I'm running this little girl with a bow in her hair for the prettiest girl, but," I said, "those guys back there teamed up on me. I'm just about to run out of money." He said, "How much a boat is it?" I said, "A penny a boat." He just out with his checkbook and wrote a check and handed it to the lady. Those guys back there never did make them another move. So she won that little girl with a bow in her hair, won to be the prettiest girl. And I told my sister, I said, "Go over and get me a slice of apple pie and tell that little girl to get her a slice of pie and come back and sit by me. I want to talk to her." So she came back. I introduced myself. She introduced herself. I said, "Where do you live?" "Timbo." I said, "You got a car?" "No." "How'd you get out here?" "I rode the bus. The bus." I said, in other words, you're gonna ride the bus back home, yeah. I said, the bus driver from over in your place? No, he's right across the road here in front of this school. I said, he go over there and gonna come back? Yeah. I said, would you mind if I went rode home with you and come back on the bus? That'd be all right. So I started dating that little girl, and I thought on the weekend, I said, now how in the world am I going to get to see that little girl? I don't have a car to go over there to see her. I made up my mind, I want to go to college, but it's been so long since I've been in school, I've probably forgotten everything, so I'll go out and sit in on her classes. I'll ask the teacher if I'd sit in and just listen, I won't participate. So that's what the first when I got there that first day, I didn't see that pretty girl anymore. I thought, well, maybe she's not here today. And I walked over and the teacher was getting ready to go into the classroom. I said, ma'am, what class do you teach? Biology. I said, may I sit in on your class, get in the back room and sit in your class and just listen? And I said, I won't participate. I just want to listen because I want to review my studies. I'm going to go into college and I want to review. Yeah, I'd be glad to have you. Well, they walked on through there, and when I walked into that room and through that door, I looked right there, there's a pretty little girl. So I kind of, she smiled a little bit, and I smiled back there, and I went on back in the back and sat down. The teacher says, class, we have Mr. Morrow with us, he's going to sit in and listen to our lesson. So I did that in different classes for, I don't know, several weeks. Anyway, I finally, my cousin and her husband came down and he was driving a 35 Ford car, four-door, pretty car, boy, it shined. And he said, John, let me sell you that car. I said, no, I couldn't afford to buy a car. I said, I just can't afford one. So he said, but we talked along there a while. I said, now what do you want for that car? He said, $400. I said, no, I just don't have the money. I just can't buy that. So I thought about it a little while, and I thought, $400, I think I'll just buy that thing. That thing I'll have some way to go over and see that pretty little girl.
Pretty little girl.
I'd already found out that she had two sisters and her father. They all went to church every Sunday morning and Sunday night. So I thought, I'd go over and see her and go to church with her. So I bought that car. First weekend I drove over. Then as I got there to the church, they were all just going in the door. Well, I parked my car out there in front, got out and went in. That pretty girl was sitting over here on a pew by herself. I just walked up right there and I said, may I sit here? It's okay, you know. Well, the church was over with. I told her, I said, well, I bought a car. I said, you and your sister and Dad want to ride home with it? And so the girls got in, and I asked her father if he wanted to ride, and he said, no, I'll just walk. So I drove the girls on up to the house, parked in front of the house there. Just a few minutes, he came up. Started from there, and I don't know, sometime, we started this in October, you see. So way long, several months later, I said, would you marry me? She said, yeah. I'd never had a date now before that. And the first girl that I dated her so long that I married her. And
Good
you
for
talk
you.
about a helpmate, I had a good one. Boy, she was smart. I kind of felt like maybe I made a mistake because I didn't know half as much as she did. But anyway, I still remember what I told the Lord when I was in those battles. If you'll help me get out of here, get back home, I'll do anything you want me to. So that buried on my mind. Finally, we got our degrees. Taught 1 year. I coached 4 basketball teams, taught 4 classes for $2,400. I said, oh my, I can't make a living like that. there's gotta be some way to make more money. So I told her, I said, let's go out to the state of Washington. I had a brother-in-law and my sister out there. He was working for the government on the bomb plant out there. See if I can get on that place to work. So I went out there and checked in. They said, yeah, we can use you, but you'll have to have a top clearance, secret clearance. And he said, we'll have to check you out. I said, okay, check me out. So I went down to town there, and there's a station down there, and walked into that station and asked if they needed any help. Yeah, we can use some help. So I started working at that filling station for money to live on until they checked me out. Finally, they got my clearance checked out. I went to work on Hanford Works, $7,600 a year instead of $2,400 a year. Oh, I got cotton then. So worked there. I worked there 7.5 years, and they taught me how to operate all the instruments and everything, how to write up the reports. Then I don't know what happened, but they bring people in. My degree was biological science and physical education, double major, but they wanted me to train guys just with a chemistry or a physics degree. Well, I'd have to teach them how to use all the instruments, what to do if they had a mishap, how to write up the reports, everything. I had to teach them everything that I knew myself and a little bit more. And so, there's a tank farm, big tank farm like we see, these big steel tanks for gas, people where they're making gasoline. Well, they had about 10 or 12 of those big tanks out there. They put radioactive materials in, liquid materials. Well, I'd go down and check around those tanks every once in a while, see if there's any leakage. That boss man down there over the tank field said, John, you'll never get a promotion. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're too good at teaching people to do what you're doing. Said, you'll never get a promotion. Said, you just keep that in your mind, that you'll never get a promotion because you're too good at teaching people to do the same thing that you do. So I taught, kept teaching them, and then when I teach one of them, get them trained and everything, and turn around and be my boss. So I trained about 7 of them, and a job came up that I knew I was qualified for, so I asked the boss man about it. I can't let you have it, but said, go downtown and talk to this man down there. Went down there, and you've heard of people shaking hands like a dirty dish rag, haven't you? He didn't even know that good, actually. And I told him,